Hi friends! Welcome to Mental Health Chat, where I take a topic having to do with mental health and kind of delve a little bit deeper into my thoughts and my experiences with it. Just as the same disclaimer I always use, I am not a mental health professional, so if you are actually in serious danger to yourself or others, please go and seek out the proper resources. This is just to be able to share my experiences and hope that maybe there will be something that you connect with to know that you're not alone. Today I wanted to talk about being a sociable person who has anxiety. It's interesting because I was originally going to title this video being sociable with social anxiety, but I started doing a little bit more research into social anxiety, and that's a diagnosable disorder that has a very set list of symptoms, and I don't meet a lot of those criteria, so I would not consider myself somebody with social anxiety per se. The symptoms for social anxiety include absolutely under no circumstances wanting to be around people and feeling like they're judging you and that you're humiliated just to be the center of attention, and you have a lot of actual physical reactions to social situations. But looking into that led me to researching a little bit more on introverts versus extroverts, and it's something that I had seen a while ago of can you be an introverted extrovert or an extroverted introvert? Reading I've done has been interesting because it really makes sense that it would be on a spectrum. So if you have, the extreme cases of introvert and extrovert, most people fall somewhere in the middle. And I would definitely say I'm somewhere in the middle. I just know that a lot of my anxieties present themselves in social situations. So I just figured I would share that because I think it would surprise a lot of people, because I would say most people that I meet and most people that I know would say that I'm a pretty outgoing person. I'm a pretty extroverted person. I like talking to people, and I enjoy spending time with friends and meeting new people. But I think the thing that you don't always see is that can actually be really hard on the inside. Just because somebody outwardly seems very easygoing and personable, it doesn't mean that there's not some internal struggle going on. So for me, I realized probably high school and college that I didn't enjoy some of the same social situations as a lot of people my age. In high school, I didn't really go to a lot of parties. In college, I was part of a sorority, so fraternity parties were a very common thing. And I went to a big university, so there was a huge fraternity culture. That was a big part of a Friday or Saturday night, was going to frat parties. I personally hated going to frat parties. I distinctly remember my freshman year, some friends of mine were going to a fraternity party, and I agreed to come along with them and already had my reservations about it. And I got there, and I just remember almost being crippled with panic, because all of these people are dancing and flirting and having a good time and drinking, and there's this line in The Big Bang Theory where he says, "You're having fun wrong." And that's how I felt. This is not fun for me. I would much rather have a low-key night with friends and do something silly or fun or play games or whatever. But it's really hard to feel like you're in the minority. It's really hard to feel like this is part of the college experience and it's what you're supposed to do. And people, go on spring break and hook up and go to parties, and that just didn't feel like me. But it's really hard sometimes when you're of the age that's what a lot of people are doing. You feel like you must be wrong. And I mean, even as I've gotten older, and parties now tend to be a little more low-key, I definitely still get really intimidated in a lot of social situations. I think that people, if I think that they're better than me, I feel really intimidated. So if I'm around people that are a lot more attractive or a lot more successful, I kind of cave in on myself and have a really hard time being able to feel like I'm being myself. And it's interesting because I often look at my role in social situations and with people as being funny. If I don't have the opportunity to be able to crack a joke and make people laugh, I instantly become very uncomfortable. Because somehow I've just tied that in with my identity, is that's what I do, is I make jokes, and it's really, I think, tied to how I value myself in a social situation is if I'm able to make people laugh, like I instantly feel like I'm a valuable part of the social dynamic. And if I don't have that opportunity, then I get very overwhelmed, I think. I found that I also get really anxious as far as second guessing conversations and things with people. So obviously I have people that I'm very comfortable with, but if it's somebody that I don't know very well and have a whole conversation with, I find myself going back over it afterwards and second guessing, like, you know, I hope they didn't take this a certain way, or I hope they didn't think I was, you know, weird when I said this. So a lot of kind of looking over things with a microscope. Logically, I know that I'm sure people on the other side are not doing the same thing of like just picking apart my conversation with them, but I know on my end I'm doing that. And then I've kind of, as I've gotten older, learned more about kind of myself and being able to analyze myself like this. Like all of this that I'm telling you is just kind of self-reflection and really wanting to understand myself and why I react in certain ways the way I do. I found that with my anxiety and depression, it usually comes in waves. So if I'm having like a particularly like low point, fortunately I'm able to identify that. Like I'm able to know when I'm going through a bad moment and deal with it accordingly. I found that even like simple social things, like knowing that there's a friend that I haven't texted to get together with in a while and like I really am overdue on needing to like send them a text. Even something as small as that feels like work. Feels like something I need to put on a to-do list. It feels like a chore. And it has nothing to do with not wanting to talk to that person or hang out with that person. Just the idea of having to like start a conversation and do that whole thing just feels exhausting. I've gotten to the point where I know if little things like that are starting to feel like a huge task, that it's probably best if I just take a day or two and not worry about trying to please other people or interact with other people and just take some time to myself. And I guess the point of this is just to say that it's okay if you don't feel like you fit in a particular category when it comes to your anxiety or how you interact and are sociable with other people. Like, that's okay. And to not assume that just because somebody seems like they're really like easygoing and personable, that it's not something that takes some work for them. But I also know that it's worth trying because relationships with other people are important. A lot of good things can come from putting yourself out there in situations that make you uncomfortable on the onset. And sometimes you just have to give yourself a little nudge to make it happen. So thank you so much for checking out this video. Please let me know in the comments below what other like aspects of mental health and topics you would want me to talk about. One thing that I'd really like to try and do this year is actually sit down with some professionals and discuss and learn about some subjects that I don't know as much about. But there's certainly still things that I'm happy to share about myself. But yes, please let me know in the comments what you would like for me to talk about. I love you, you're not alone, and I'll see you next time.